We might as well get started. And Phil is back again. I honestly think I'm going to have to, I don't know, steal money to pay your salary, get you an access account in my tenant, and that's just it. I think we have to do that. So thanks for being there again, Phil. I really appreciate having you on board. It's always nice having a nice friendly face out there. I have to admit, people, I'm pretty tired tonight. I've had a crazy week. I've been working night shifts. I've not been sleeping. So it is 7 p.m. I have to get up at 3 a.m. I feel like death warmed up, but I'm pretty sure we can do this. So thanks for being there, Phil. I'm going to check the questions and post them. Phil's much better at answering those crazy things than me. I think if you want to join again next week, I think I must just invite you as a co-producer, Phil. So let me know if you're game for that. We can try that out. But I don't want to abuse you to do these things. So anyway, so welcome to my webinar. I hope that we're going to have some fun today. As a disclaimer, I'd like to say if anyone was on my session earlier on today for Valo Fest, this is exactly the same session. So I'm going to absolutely forgive you to leave this webinar and go sit somewhere and have some nice red wine or a nice cup of coffee or a nice cup of tea. But this is exactly the same session as I delivered earlier on today. I thought, being as tired as I am, I thought it would be quite nice to just not create another session, seeing as both of my sessions was about Office 365 adoption and change management. So let's get started then. Now, this is obviously a topic that I do have quite a lot to say about, okay? There's my standard disclaimer. I don't know everything, but I know everyone who does, like Phil, who's online again, because he knows pretty much everything. We do, as I say every week, we do suspect that Phil is a robot, because I do not think that humans can be awake that much. I can't. I'm not dealing well with not sleeping enough, so. Today's session is adoption and change management, and I want to talk about training and all those things that are important to me. And I am going to run through some quick wins that I think is important for you if you start looking at how to roll out Microsoft 365 or maybe just cool things that you can do. I'm going to talk about the ROI, your return on investment, and it might not be all monetary related as suspected. Regan, I'm so sorry. You can really leave the session. I'm so very sorry. But you're welcome to hang around. But I'm absolutely doing a repeat. I try to save myself some time. So that's a lovely lady from Switzerland that was on my session at the Velos Fest today. And she was already seeing my boring stuff today. So I will absolutely forgive you, Regan, if you do leave my session. So I want to cover the change management. I'm going to be looking at how to stay up to date, and I'll have a closing. I want to leave some time for questions. I think there's always some very cool questions that comes out of these things. There's always some nice feedback. So I'm definitely going to be leaving some time for questions. And I do like the whole Q&A side of these crazy things. So so let's get cracking, shall we? As I said, as I mentioned, this is exactly the same session that I delivered today for Valo Fest. So if you were in my session, I do apologize. I try and do these weekly, but today was just too hectic for me to deliver two different sessions. So you're welcome to hang in and you're welcome to leave. I won't blame you for that. So let's first talk about quick wins. Now, if I think quick wins, okay, everyone always grabs those big things. They kind of go like the onboarding solution or Power BI or the leave application or all of those type of things. And I've always said that I think that we tend to focus on, not wrong, but I don't think we focus on the right things all the time. So if I think of quick wins and I think of things that adds value in your company if you move to cloud technologies, then I think something that gets missed quite often is Office ProPlus. Now, Office ProPlus got renamed to Microsoft 365 Apps for Enterprise recently. Okay, so I'm still going to refer to it as Office ProPlus, like I refer to Microsoft Flow. So take note of that. But Office ProPlus or Microsoft 365 Apps for Enterprise is something that's very close to my heart because It's a platform that most of you have been using for years. It's something that people have used without being afraid of it. They didn't even know it's apps. They just used Excel, they used Outlook, they used Word, they used PowerPoint. So if your company is moving to cloud, there's no such easier way than to approach your end users and say, hey, did you know what's really cool about Office 365? Well, it's all the latest features that you get in Office ProPlus, because this is a platform that they already trust. So it's much easier to introduce them to new cool things than it is to completely new different things. So start with those baby steps and start with those things that they already know. So in Office, there's incredible features that gets released on a regular basis. These are just some of the ones that I list on a regular basis, and some of my favorites, but there's loads and loads and loads more. Towards the end of the webinar, as I always do, I am going to list a whole bunch of cool sites and things that you can go and check out to stay up to date. And I will show you where you can go and check out the latest features for the Office side of your Microsoft 365 apps for enterprise. So that's definitely some cool things. If I just think dictation is pretty cool. I love PowerPoint. I've done a webinar just on PowerPoint, believe it or not. So Morph and Zoom and design ideas and the recording and the icons, and I've got stickers now, and there's cutout people. It's just pretty amazing. Excel, what they've recently brought out is the ideas, but you actually have the ability now to, in natural language, you can actually ask ideas, things about your data, and how freaky is that? So you can actually say, what's the best way to look at this, or what's industry that, I don't know. So go check out ideas. Pretty cool. The 3D maps and world maps is really awesome as well. Quick steps and dictation and Outlook has been out for quite some time, but it's big value adds. So please don't forget how important these little feature updates has been in your tenant. It's not just the big things, the small things actually matters. So make sure that your users know about all these cool new things and that it does get communicated. So promise me that. Then, let's just see. Next. So when we look at Office 365 rollouts or like stages or something, or phases, the thing that most people focus on would be, of course, Exchange Online. It would be your SharePoint. It would be OneDrive, and it would be Teams. That's the biggest hits that everyone kind of goes for. And most people don't even think further than that. Most people are actually going to Office 365 purely because Skype for Business is kind of reaching end of life, okay? So most people don't even realize all the other things that comes with it. So as I mentioned, I really want you to pay some attention to the ProPlus side or the Office side and all the cool things that happens in there. Then, of course, if we look at Teams, don't forget about OneNote and Planner, as well as Yammer. So bringing all those cool things in there as well. Very big favorites of mine, Stream, Forms, and Sway. And I just kind of add these things on as people's maturity grows when it comes to the technology. And then, of course, the Power Platform. So Power Automate, Power BI, and Power Apps. I do kind of stage that last, and I'm not saying that should be last, but contrary to advertisements, I don't think that the Power Platform is something that end users just jump at and do copy and paste in or drag and drop. It is a bit more complex to get used to it, and I do think that it's important that their maturity has grown a bit first, and their experience with the cloud technologies before you just start slapping all those more advanced, complex type of platforms on there. So normally I kind of stage that a bit later, but you do have your early adopters, and you do have people that kind of grabs at those a little bit earlier. Not a problem with that at all. And of course, I'm sure if you've been in any of my webinars, you've seen this picture 100 times, and that's my digital literacy poster. Now, I do believe that in the past, we adopted technologies based on whoever the CEO played golf with. Maybe I was in some bad companies. I don't know if you guys had that. But I swear I saw that a lot. I saw people coming back on Monday and then reinstalling SharePoint because Bob played golf with Peter and they have SharePoint, okay? So back in the day, we used to adopt technologies that kind of like is by hearsay, you know, someone else is using it and you should use it, and I don't know. And I think that should change. I think we should look at technology based on the value it can add for our users. And it's not about the fact that we've bought a license and now you have to use it. It's about making sure that people understand the skills it can add to their portfolio. So these are the 8 pillars of digital literacy that I focus on in my training. And if you understand that these are skills that people need as digital citizens, then they'll understand that technology is better, if that makes sense. So start with a need, don't start with a platform. I think that's an important thing to understand. This as well, quite important infographic that I share very often is if we go to Microsoft Teams, and again, what I'm driving here is your kind of roadmap. How do you roll this out in the company? How do you get people used to this? And these are the type of tools that I use to get there. Okay, it's not just about the technology, it's about how you position it. So Microsoft Teams for me is absolutely the hub for the digital workplace. And if I look at Microsoft Teams, then of course I have my SharePoint online as my storage in the background. I've got OneDrive that I can surface through there as well. I can find my cloud storage content. I can engage with Outlook to a certain extent. I can bring Yammer in there. I do know that there's a Skype for Business icon, and the reason is that your call and your chat and your post conversations functionality is actually Skype for Business. It's been rebuilt inside of Microsoft Teams, of course. So that kind of replaces that. And then I've still got the Kaizala icon there. We'll see what happens in the future, but that's your instant messaging, so you can integrate with that as well. Then when it comes to the productivity, you'll see that I've listed OneNote and Planner, and I always deploy those when I look at a new team for a department. So I can't do a team without OneNote and Planner, and that's just for basic tasks and for note taking and things. I even use OneNote for my meeting minutes. I don't use the meeting notes that came out a while back. I prefer to use OneNote. Then you'll see Power Platform there as well, so Power Automate, Power Apps, and Power BI. That can be added as tabs. There in the top, you can see Microsoft Forms, Stream, Microsoft Sway is there as well. And then I've brought in the people and content as well, so through Delve. But if you think the Who bot, we have the ability to ask it questions. We can ask who the person is. So who's Phil's manager? Who's my manager? I don't know. What did I send someone an email about? So the Who bot's pretty cool. You should go check that out. I can add other tools as well through Chrome or Edge or any other website tools. And then, of course, the co-authoring in Teams is absolutely unbelievable. So I definitely would look at the co-authoring, but I can even add whiteboards these days in my Teams meetings. And of course, you can load PDFs and those type of things. So Teams is definitely by far my favorite thing when it comes to being a hub to bring everything together. And I think something that you have to understand is that Teams is not supposed to do everything. So I'm not going to defend that. I'm not going to defend the fact that Teams doesn't do everything, because it's not supposed to do everything. Teams is supposed to bring everything together that does everything. You're not supposed to load videos in Teams, that's what Stream's for. You're not supposed to try and build quizzes in Teams, that's what Forms is for. So please understand that this is a platform that kind of brings everything together, but it's not supposed to do everything. So don't blame Teams for not doing this and this. Use the right app in the right place and the right time. So that's quite important for me. Now, Microsoft SharePoint Online, I see some of the icons a little bit outdated, but it's okay, we all know what they're for. So SharePoint Online, very similar, also a hub for me to bring a lot of things together. I think if there's anyone on the call still remembers SharePoint 2013, we used to be able to pick from apps to build things. Okay, it's a little bit different to what it was today. And so you could go to SharePoint and say, oh, I want to pick the discussion board, or I want an announcement list, or I want a task list, or what was all the things? I think there was video and image reports as well, and things like, oh, there was a quiz survey tool as well, or forms tool or something. So in SharePoint, you can grab all these apps and services and build these things, okay? And how that's evolved over the last 7 or 8 years is that everything doesn't necessarily happen in SharePoint anymore. It now kind of happens outside of SharePoint in Microsoft 365, but we can still bring it together in SharePoint. So again, don't blame SharePoint for not being everything. It's not supposed to be everything. It's supposed to know everyone that is everything. So SharePoint, of course, also sits behind Microsoft Teams, so you can use it separate, or you can just use it as your storage behind your Microsoft Teams. So SharePoint is absolutely my entry level into the IT tech world. It's my blue-eyed boy and my first love. So the Power Platform, and as I said, I kind of stage it later as the maturity grows, as people have had training, as they've started adopting the technologies. So the Power Platform is very important for me, and that is Power Apps, Power BI, the Power Automate, which was Flow before, And then, of course, also the virtual agents for engaging conversationally. Okay, so a very cool platform to use to actually automate and improve and save money and save time and make things better. So I wouldn't jump away with that immediately in the beginning with your roadmap. I definitely would get things to be a bit stable and people to adopt the technologies to carry on. So please remember, everyone, you're allowed to ask a question at any time. I see everyone's very quiet, so I don't know if everyone's left me in the call, but that's all good. I'll finish this webinar and I'll share the recordings again tomorrow. But so if I think of your roadmap for Office 365, I kind of look at the core apps and services, and that's kind of my Teams and my SharePoint, my Yammer and my OneDrive. So if I think of communication and collaboration, that's my content and my comms, okay, which is the core of what I do. I'm saying core of what I do. I mean, everyone doesn't just communicate in a company, and I don't mean it that way. So of course, I'm not talking financial systems. But if I kind of focus on those first, if I focus on getting that structure right first, so people can communicate, they can share content with each other, whichever the environments might be, then of course Office ProPlus or Microsoft 365 apps have been addressed. We definitely want to make sure that people are using those already. Delve and your Edge, but of course I'm going to start introducing Planner, OneNote. I'm going to start introducing my whiteboard with Teams as well. And then on the right-hand side, I'll start to gradually introduce Forms, Sway, Stream, Power Automate, Power Apps, and Power BI. I can't tell you what must go first and what must go last. I do take a logical order of starting with the basics and then gradually introducing it. But I would say that I am the Oprah Winfrey when it comes to Microsoft 365, because I believe that everyone should get every app. Okay, so I'm that dangerous person that you shouldn't allow loose in your company. Okay, I'm the one who causes trouble. I don't like the fact that we hide or close off apps to people. I think they should have the ability to start using them, but that also means that your IT department needs to be equipped to be able to support the company if there should be questions or not. Because if you do have early adopters that starts using Forms and Sway and Stream from day one, you don't want them logging a call by IT and saying, hey, my video, if I share it, people can't see it. And they go like, what's Stream? Like, we don't know what's Stream. Because I think we've had enough of that in the past. Okay, we don't want to do that anymore. So there's just some ideas around logical orders to kind of like categorize these, and I'm going to incorrectly call them workloads because I'm sure that's technically not correct, but I would call them workloads. So how to structure those. And it's all about the need, remember, it's about making sure that people understand how these things fit together and what they can do with them. So let's talk about the ROI. Now, before I get to that, I just want to take a sip of my coffee. So everyone cheers, take some sips of your coffee. So if we talk about the ROI, I don't like naturally lean towards the how much money is saved because people are whatever. I actually start with employees first. So for me, the most important part of the ROI is that people that are not enabled and are not happy are going to cost the company a lot of money. So unhappy employees that are not enabled, that don't have the tools to do what they want, that don't feel supported, will talk negatively. They'll not work the hours that you're getting them paid for. They'll negatively influence other people. They'll leave the company and cost you money to replace them. So the cost of employees that aren't happy is actually much higher than I think you can ever imagine. So if we could just invest in our employees and make sure that they're trained and that they are happier and that they've got the tools to be more than they were the day before, then I can promise you, you're saving money already. So the ROI on happy employees is difficult. It's not that tangible, so it's difficult to measure that. But I do think that it's a very big cost saving if you do keep your employees happy. So ROI. Now, as earlier mentioned, it's very true that we tend to grab the big things. So when companies look at Microsoft 365 and they think, how are they going to save money? How are they going to improve things? They always grab the big things first. That's going to be that onboarding solution or the leave application or all the Power BI reports. But I do want you to also focus on the small things that affects everyone. And this is one of the templates that I normally introduce users to help them save money every single day for themselves. So save Office 365 email attachments to OneDrive, but it doesn't just have to be OneDrive. You can also save them straight to SharePoint and Teams, of course. So this is something that every single person in the company most probably needs to do. We all get attachments on emails. We all need to save it and then upload it somewhere else, okay? And this means that you can, with Power Automate, use a template to write a little workflow that does that for you. So that means that it's something that can save every single person in the company money every single day. And for me, that's a great ROI. Yes, you can have that big solution that you think is going to save you gazillions, but how about rather having 10,000 people that saves time every day? Believe me, that's a great value add. So definitely look at that template. I do think it's something that can help a lot of people. And contrary to popular advertisements, I always say that Flow or Power Automate and Power BI and Power Apps is not as easy and as drag and drop as the industry tries and makes it out, okay? So it's not like all your end users are going to run now suddenly start building those things. But believe me, this template is semi-easy enough for people to build. So if you go and just do a little example video, and I've done it as well, if you go to my blog and you search for tax, TAX, you'll find a video and you're welcome to illegally download it, I don't care. So I've done a video that shows you how to use this template, and that can then help your employees to actually build this template and save a lot of time. So definitely go check out for that one. And then look at that keyboard not going to my next slide. So ROI, this is an article that came out no idea how long ago. I'm sure it must be like a year and a half ago. So Forrester actually published this, and what really stood out for me on this was that 4 hours per work week. So I've been doing a lot of research the last couple of years around how much time is wasted due to digital literacy or PC literacy, and what the cost impact is on companies. So it's a difficult thing to establish, but you know, it's worth looking at those values. And when this article came out, I really liked the fact that I had something, a quantity or a quality versus quantity that I could grab and actually work across, because I kind of came to the same figures, believe it or not. Now, 4 hours a work week for normal people, and that won't be us, okay? Normal people work 40 hours a week. We obviously work more than that. So normal people work 40 hours a week, and 4 hours a work week means that's a 10% saving. So we're saying that people that have fully adopted the collaborative platform, Teams, OneDrive, SharePoint, etc. So 4 hours a work week is saved by information workers through improved collaboration and information sharing. So just by adopting better methods and using the apps and services, you can get to a point where you can save 4 hours a work week. Now, 4 hours a work week, and I'm no math school, okay, I'm not great with maths, but 4 hours a work week is 10% of your salary bill, which is pretty impressive, okay? So if I look at 10% of your salary bill, and I know that this is in South African ZAR or Rand, South African Rand. Now, in a small company of about 1,000 people, that's just an average that I work out. That 4 hours a work week is a cost saving. I'm saying cost saving. You know what I mean? It's actually more productive, of 34 million ZAR in a year, which is a lot of money for us, okay? I kind of like loosely converted that to dollars as well as euros, and that's about $2 million, I think, and 1.8 million euros. That's a lot of money, okay, for a small company of 1,000 people. So I don't know what the average salaries are in but you're welcome to go and do this exercise yourself, because it's always worth knowing what that actually means in monetary value. And if you look at companies that doesn't want to pay for training and things, I'm like, how do you not pay for training, but we're wasting that much money because people aren't productive? I don't quite get that. So anyway, so ROI, that's the money side of things. I think it's a good exercise to do. I've written loads of blogs on it. If you go to my blog and you just search for ROI, you'll find those calculators as well. So that's definitely something that could help you. Okay, we're going to go to change management next. So we're going to take another sip of our coffee, because I'm desperately trying to stay awake, and I'm pretty sure everyone thinks that I'm rather awake, but believe me, this is me being rather asleep. Okay, so I'm quite tired. But the first thing I want to talk about is old people, by the way. I've got to be careful to say that on a webinar. So I'm 45, okay, so technically I'm considered as old. in the industry when it comes to tech, so I'm considered as an old person, okay? Millennials already frown upon my existence. But something that I do want to make you aware of is how old people like me learn. Now, many times when I get involved in companies, I have management tell me that older people learn different, or older people, they're more stubborn, Trace, or you know what, they're just so resistant to try and change, and it's not true at all. I really don't agree with that. I do want to make you think a bit different about that, because that's my life mission, of course, is to ruffle feathers and upset the way that people think. So if I think of older people, I'm saying older people, it's actually not about age, it's actually about the time spent working on platforms in IT. That's actually the reference, but loosely coupled, that normally is directly linked to age. So if I think of old people, okay, like me, so I've worked on a lot of IT systems, I've a lot of different Windows, OS platforms, I've gone through a lot of different SharePoint versions, and so that kind of is a lot of information in my head. So people have sometimes at conferences, they've said to me that if only Microsoft would build intuitive software, then like Apple, then we wouldn't have to train people. So I didn't quite get that. And I asked them to give me an example because I couldn't quite understand where they were going with that. So this person shared with me, and he said he's got a little 2-year-old daughter at home, and he can give her his iPad, and within 2 seconds she can figure that stuff out and she can start working on it. And he says, Trace, it's because iOS or macOS is intuitive. So I don't quite agree with that. I think it's a question of the younger the person is and the less experience they've had with IT and technologies, the easier it is for them to adopt technologies. So that little sweet little 2-year-old Sarah, or whatever her name was, she's obviously never worked on XP or Windows Vista or Windows, I don't know, 7. So it's much easier to just start working with a new technology if you actually haven't seen the old technology. You're very far from ancient, by the way, Susan. I'm not publishing these comments, but I'm reading the comments as we go on. Ancient, my foot man, ancient. So that little girl wouldn't struggle as much to adopt new technology because she doesn't know better. And I don't mean that bad. But our brains are kind of wired in such a way that when we learn to use a platform, our brain kind of carves out this little road, this neurological path of how it works. So it kind of says there's a drop down, next button, do this, do that. And whenever you have to learn a completely new way of doing that, it's quite a struggle for your brain, especially if the new way is completely different. Okay, so an example would be, let's see who remembers this. I mean, let's see if everyone's awake on the call. So speak to me a bit, people, because I'm going to fall asleep. So who remembers the launch of Office 2007? And who can remember what the big change was when Office 2007 came out? I'm not going to publish the questions, but spit it out at me. Who can remember what the big change was when Office 2007 was launched? And what was the big difference that happened in Office 2007? Is there anyone who can answer that? Let's see if anyone knows what that is before I proceed. So when Office 2007 got launched, it pretty much brought South Africa to its knees. It was a disaster, okay? So they launched this new technology, and we had a disaster. So I'm in IT support, and I had to deal with a lot of those crazy things. Okay, so let's see. Oh, Phil, of course Phil knows it's the ribbon. Susan also knows it's the ribbon. Okay, so Office 2007 is when the ribbon got launched. Okay, so before the ribbon, it was drop-down menus. So we had file, edit, view, you know, all those little drop-down menus. Pretty much how it's going to look pretty soon. Okay, so you would have noticed that in Microsoft 365 already, is that they've started bringing in drop-down menus again because it's more mobile friendly. Okay, the ribbon wasn't that friendly. So, but the thing is that got launched. So it's not like we did change management. It's not like we did comms in the company and said to people, it looks like that and it's going to look like this. We just said, hey, everyone, when you're back on Monday, you're going to have a new office. Boom. And it was a disaster. So people logged calls for things like, I don't know where my file and my print button is and blah, blah, blah. And I kind of got it, okay, because I'd worked for years on a UI or a user interface that looked that way. But People that had only started to work that Monday and had never worked on Office didn't have a problem. So do you get what I'm saying? Older people or people that have more history with older versions of platforms of IT, it's because we have so much information in our heads and so much experience that we bring with us. So it's not that we're stubborn. We have to first unlearn certain things to learn new things. Okay, so please, please, please have patience with people that are over-experienced. I'd rather call them over-experienced than old. People that are over-experienced like me, we have to first unlearn old things before we can learn new things. So be nice, okay? Please be nice. And I'm not just saying it because I'm 45, okay? It's not like that. So, okay, let's see if there's IT people on the call. Whose heart am I gonna, whose feelings am I gonna hurt? Is there any IT techies or IT support people on the call, or that sits in IT departments, if that's their main role or something? I won't call you out. I just want to know if there is someone whose feelings I'm going to hurt on the call. I'd love to know, because I do have something important to share about IT and about how things have to change. Now, if I look at the technology that we're rolling out today in the industry, the technology that we're using now is in discovery phase, okay? So it's already pushing content at us that we didn't ask for. It's using AI and machine learning. I mean, think of Project Cortex and all those things, how cool is that? So, so there's no way that we can use old methodologies to manage new tech that's out there today. So our ways of dealing with IT support and things are still very much based on years and years and years of ways of doing. So when someone would log a call with IT would say, what did you do now, Tracy? What did you break now? Why did you press that button? You're not supposed to go there. Why didn't you log a call yesterday already? Okay, so we had this fear where we've done something wrong. We shouldn't have done that. We were told not to be curious. We were told not to solve our own problems, so we stopped doing it. And there was just this really bad rift between us and IT, business and IT, if that makes sense. So in the old days, IT's KPIs was find the problem, fix the problem, okay? And now with technology, we actually have to fix people to fix their own problems. So instead of giving them fish, we need to teach them to fish, okay? And that's quite a big change. So if you want to adopt new technologies, you honestly have to change the way that you do IT support as well. And if I can give you any advice, if it's possible, I would put junior trainers on IT support. So for me, the person that answers the call should be a trainer. I think I want people that have more patience with users and want to help them fix their own problems. So for me, I think that's scalable, and I think that will be a fix. Of course, at some point, eventually, we are going to have bots that does that, okay? But we've got to first build up those processes. So consider that we have to change our IT support. And also the guys that you have on IT support normally aren't people. For some odd reason, the guys that does IT support is more the back office basement type of, like, no windows, you know, doesn't want to see people, and that's absolutely fine because there's a place and a role for everyone in the world. But I don't necessarily think that people, they're more solutions people that solves problems. We need to get people in the front line that actually fixes people to help them fix their own things, because that's scalable. So that is the IT support comment. Then part of this big change as well, and we're talking about change management now, about the things that you should consider before you even start looking at rolling out the new technology. And that's the big change between waterfall versus agile, okay? So waterfall was that whole, like, I don't know, to death, document, requirements, meetings, and then we start building prototypes, or not even prototypes, but on the dev environment. Then we do tests and use cases, then we go back to business, then we make changes, then we document it again, and at some point we move it to production, okay? The sad thing is that a lot of times when we move things to production, by the time we moved it to production, it probably was outdated already. I mean, I've been on so many projects where that's the case, where by the time we actually deploy that solution, then the process has changed, and that's how sad it is. Where Agile is a much faster changing thing, but Agile, you also have to allow for making mistakes, because it's about failing forward, if I can put it that way. You're actually hitting that 80% fit the whole time and not the 100%, but that means that you're making small changes all the time. So there's been a very, very big change between waterfall versus Agile. And I definitely want you to consider that. So then part of the whole change management thing, something that's important for me is that we need to be more transparent. And that's not something we as humans do. I don't think we're quite good at that. Okay, we've been so indoctrinized maybe to hide and not always share the truth. But we have to become more transparent with our users. And I'm talking about business, okay, like the whole business. We need to share with them, what are we busy doing? What are we going to roll out? What are the nice new features? We also need to share with them our failures and our successes. I mean, for years, we've just shared our successes, okay? We never shared our failures, which means we never built up a trust relationship. We just never had people that kind of believed a word that we said, because we would just constantly just tell them the good news, and if something goes bad, we just ignore it. We don't speak about it. So there was no trust. And please remember that in your company, this is like being in marriage, man. I mean, we've been married to each other, we're in a relationship. And I mean, if we can't be honest with each other, what's the point? There'll never be trust. We'll never have co-ownership. People will never take responsibility. So what's the point? So we have to be transparent. I want you to be open with the company about what's being launched. And important things about that is like your roadmap. So if I think of your roadmaps, if we think of documenting our digital strategies, okay? I just want to get PowerPoint to work with me as well, because even PowerPoint's been difficult with me. There we go. So if we look at documenting our strategies, our digital strategies, okay? So before, I'm pretty sure most of you have also experienced this. Before, we kind of did this in 40 or 50 pages, some disgusting document, okay, Word document, and that got saved or stored somewhere and never to be read again, okay? But it made you look pretty cool because you wrote this document, but it had no value for the company. No one referred to it, no one checked back on those things, and it never got updated, okay? But of course, it needed to be in place. It was an artifact. Now, I don't believe in using documentation like that. I would rather have a single infographic like this. I would rather say, Oaks, this is what we did with personal docs before. This is what I want us to do with it now. That's what we did with sharing external. This is what I want us to do with it now. So think about using infographics, but then also what's very important for me is you can't leave this not to update it. So before, and I'm talking about over the last 5 years, I would say review it every 3 months, and that's a good Kaizen or a continuous improvement approach. But I'm at this point where I'm saying this should be reviewed on a monthly basis based on the features and apps that are being released by Microsoft. Because Microsoft might release something cool, and I'm saying Microsoft, it might be another partner, but Microsoft might release something on Monday, which is a complete game changer. I mean, maybe before you decided that you wanted to put your file shares must move across to SharePoint and, I don't know, OneDrive, and now there's this new thing that Microsoft releases on Monday, and you go like, nope, that's the best thing since sliced bread, okay? So don't keep on making mistakes because it took you so long to make those mistakes and because it was so expensive, okay? So just stop doing that. Have an open mindset, have open mindsets with your users as well and with the company, have an agile mindset, and say that people, we don't know everything anymore. You will never, ever be at the point where you know everything anymore. And if you lie to your company and you lie to your end users and you say that, you're going to fail, okay? So be open and say that I actually don't know everything anymore, but this is the decision that I'm making right now. I'm put a stake in the ground and say, guys, right now, as of today, the 25th of June, we've decided this is our roadmap. We are going to diligently review this on a monthly basis, and if there needs to be any changes based on where the world and technology has gone, we'll update it and we'll inform you, okay? And maybe it will hurt and maybe it won't, because evolution is supposed to hurt, by the way. If it doesn't hurt, then nothing's changing, okay? If it's easy, then we're doing it wrong. It's as easy as that. So no, it's not as easy as that. So please review and update these things of yours on a regular basis, and make sure that your users understand what these are well. Stop writing those 40-page documents. They're boring, they make you look pretty cool, but they mean nothing, okay? So start doing things for the right reasons and for things that add value, not because they look cool and they make you look good, okay? It's about the users. So please document things, draw pictures if you have to, get someone to draw cool infographics or do a little video recording, it doesn't matter, but we don't have to write those boring, horrible, long-page documents anymore. So, AdCar, gee whiz, can't believe that I can ever use such big words in presentations. So I've never been a big methodology person. I've always said that the only difference between big words and small words is the font size, by the way. So there's a lot of people who can throw big words around and they look like all fancy pants, and it actually doesn't matter. So find something that works for you and make it your own. Break it down, make it simple, make it your own, and then run with it. Don't just do things because, I don't know, decision says we've got to follow this procedure. Find something that works in the company, find something that adds value, break it down into simple terms so people know what it is and run with it. I love AdCar because they focus on awareness that needs to be in place, the desire to be part of the process, the knowledge to change, etc. So AdCar is definitely something that I've used all along, but it's not like I throw AdCar around in project meetings, okay? Because what's the point? I mean, who are you trying to impress? It doesn't matter. It's a process that I follow to make sure that I do the right things. So, and of course, as part of that, and this is just a Kaizen or a continuous improvement type thing, is that I absolutely follow the plan, do, check, act cycle. And these are supposed to be small iterative changes, okay? We're not supposed to do those massive boat changes anymore that happens once a year. We're supposed to do these like on a much shorter cycle. So if you do these small changes, you can review and adapt your change cycles much faster. So for example, if you did a survey in forms once a month where you ask people their feedback on the technologies and you get bad feedback, so if you do this once a month and you get really bad feedback where people are saying that don't know how to use the technologies and it's difficult, then that means within that month you can put a new change in place to improve that cycle. But if you don't do that, then by the time you do it once a year, it's too long and it's too difficult to make that change. So do small changes. I definitely think that's something that can help companies to achieve more. Then staying up to date. So I'm going to run through my standard staying up to date things. We've still got about 20 minutes left, and then I'll leave some time open for any questions and things that people might have. So let's just run through some of those basics. I just want to see if there's any other questions. I didn't publish everyone's statements. I kind of read them out. So there was a lot of little things happening in the background, but I didn't publish all of them. So let's look at staying up to date. So firstly, when it comes to training, none of us has got time anymore to do like 4 days of training in a year or something, okay? But if you had to take 5 minutes a day every weekday, that is the equivalent of 4 days a year, okay? So if you can promise me that you take 5 minutes a day and you just spend that time to go and check out what's new, what's been launched, what's going on, then that's the equivalent of 4 days a year. So that's you investing back in yourself. So if we can just start doing that, then we'll achieve a lot more, okay? So then let's have a look. This is important. The Office 365 ProPlus name has been changed to Microsoft 365 Apps for Enterprise. It's a big word. Okay, it's going to be a bit difficult for me to remember that. I kind of liked ProPlus. I don't quite know what's happened in the background for that to change. So this is definitely one of the first places that I always go and keep my eye on. What's new in Microsoft 365 or Office 365. And this shows latest features for Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook. It also breaks it up in OS, as you can see there, and you can even filter it by app that you want to check out. So that's a cool thing that you can check out on a regular basis and just quickly scan through and say, hey, let me see what's new. And maybe you don't have time then to go look at it, but make a note in OneNote and say, oh, I want to go check out the new icons in Office ProPlus or Microsoft 365 apps. Good grief. Then the Microsoft 365 roadmap is definitely something that I monitor as well. And this is more technical, by the way. So this is your Power Automate, Power Apps, OneDrive, SharePoint, all of those things, Teams. So it's a little bit more technical. Maybe not all your end users will keep their eye on this, but I don't think it's a bad idea, to be honest. So I make this part of my daily what's happening and cooking in the world. One of my other resources that's super important, of course, is the Microsoft 365 adoption tools. I know that I cover all of this every time in my sessions, okay? So apart from Phil, who's always here, I mean, Phil supports me more than my family, by the way, and I actually do think my family is on this call as well. So, I'm sorry that I repeat this every time, but I think it's important enough to repeat it every time because it might be the first time that you're on my webinar, and I think that this is my gift back to you to make sure that you can go and fish on your own. I'm not going to buy you food. I would rather teach you to go and catch your own fish. So the Microsoft 365 adoption resources is an important one for me. To go and look at the resources there, the training material, the guidelines. The Office 365 Training Center is pretty cool. It's got some very nice infographics and templates and quick starts. Then let me quickly see what Phil's saying. Really? Nice. So Phil's saying, I'm going to actually publish that. I just want to make sure I'm publishing the right thing. So Phil's saying that the name change for Office ProPlus is because it's more than just Office apps. It's to include everything, Forms, Planner, etc. as one platform and not separate. I like that. See, now that makes sense to me. So the fact that ProPlus is now being consumed by the rest of the Microsoft 365 apps and services, I think is pretty cool, because for me it's important enough, because it's been important enough for me. So I'm so glad. That's great news. Thanks for letting us know about that, Phil. SharePoint Lookbook, people, how sexy is that stuff? That stuff's super sexy, okay? So that's the sexiest stuff you ever do at work and get paid for. So SharePoint Lookbook, go check out the templates and things if you want to have some inspiration for your SharePoint sites. And then, where are we? My PowerPoint doesn't want to move. See, my PowerPoint's as tired as I am. I'm exhausted, people. I don't know how exhausted I look to you, but I feel dead on the inside. So Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways is a great template that you can deploy, and I'm very embarrassed to say Phil was part of my little process this week. I got very excited about a new web part that got deployed for SharePoint and it didn't, okay? And I went and wrote about this new web part called Useful Links. I was so excited, and then everyone started questioning me like, so where's that web part, Trace? Like, where'd you get it? And Phil actually said to me, Trace, did you deploy that from somewhere? And I'm like, hell no, Phil. I'm just a like end user, man. I don't deploy stuff. Holy moly, people. It wasn't an out-of-the-box SharePoint web part. It was actually somewhere got dragged with either Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways or the Crisis Management template. When I deployed that from SharePoint Lookbook, because I did deploy it, it grabbed that cool web part. So sorry everyone for that misinformation, but lessons learned, and I did update the blog to put a note there, so you would know as well. It's pretty cool though. I would definitely go use it. So Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways, then in the adoption resources, the Teams flipbook is pretty cool and sexy as well, so you can go grab the URL, add it as a tab on your team. They can page through it. It actually whooshes. It's quite cool. Okay, it's got little videos in it. It's got interactive infographics in there. It's a pretty cool thing that you can add as a training or resource tool. Then also, I always have to give Alistair some credit for this. So Alistair Fusion told me about this recently. I was super shocked because I did consider myself as the person that knows all the geeky stuff, and I didn't know this. So teamsdemo.office.com is a very nice click-through type of thing. So much more simplistic, nothing fancy pants, doesn't use a lot of bandwidth. Very cool little thing that you can also add as a web part, as a tab, sorry, on Teams, or I don't know, as a link somewhere. So pretty cool click through. How does Teams work? What's the point of things, etc. Tech community, as always. I mean, for myself, a lot of the people, we're all part of the community. It's such an incredible thing to be part of. So become part of the community. Very important for me. You don't have to know everything. You have to know everyone who does. In the apps and services, there's also now, for quite some time, training, support, blogs, I don't know, suggest features. So go check out inside of the apps. I mean, there you can see that's in PowerPoint, that's in Power Automate, that's in Microsoft Teams. Check out the apps, just check out the main menus. There's normally quite a couple of cool things that you can do in there. So check that out. And then one of the 11 languages in South Africa is Bantu, and in Bantu there's a word called Ubuntu, and Ubuntu says, I am who I am because of who we all are. So very special to me, and that's what community means to me. Get part of the program, people. I'm still on Twitter. I know that seems old for people, but I learn on Twitter. It just works for me. But Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, go check out the MVPs if you want to stalk them as well. But MVPs aren't the only people who know things, by the way. So there's a lot of rock stars on social media, but there's some of the Twitter handles that I follow on Twitter. I'm just definitely a big fan of Twitter. Then regarding adoption and change management, here's a couple of showstopper blogs that I wrote, which I really upset a lot of people, and I kind of like secretly like that. I think I'm a troublemaker. So a couple of quick blogs, I think, to go and change your mind away about the way that you think about things. I think that's always important. This one specifically was a game changer, and that one got me into a lot of trouble. But it's good trouble. I think it's a good thing. So go check those out if you want some resources, or if you just want to like think different about things, because we need to rattle some cages, by the way. If you go and look at the past and you go and look at the success that we had for adoption, we didn't have success, by the way. We all lied. We never had success. We never had user adoption. Every single person that I ever met that told this like fancy pants story and got on a stage about their adoption lied, okay? It's all like fancy management lingo. I've never met a user that was super happy with the platforms that they were on, okay? So if we didn't have great user adoption in the past, then to get different results, we have to do things differently. So whatever you think is normal in your head, you got to change that. It didn't work in the past. So go read some articles that ruffles feathers. I think that's always a good thing. So in closing, let's quickly go and see. I want to go and see if there's any other questions. I'm not going to go and post them all. So Twitter is just a great thing for me, people. Like really, it's a very fast way for me to consume things. If you're a bit younger than I am, a lot of younger people don't like Twitter that much. I'm like, I don't know what's up with you, but I like the fact that I can very quickly consume updates on Twitter. So let's see. Yeah, the Teams help's awesome. So / help inside of the command box in Teams is definitely quite a cool thing. It absolutely is, Phil. I mean, user adoption is a continual process, never ending. Okay, and that's true. You don't reach this place where it's fixed. It's a little step towards being better, but things keep on changing. And like I said, I just think we were misinformed in the past. The idea we had about what's important, but then again, the world changes as well. I mean, things aren't the same as what they were years ago. So I think that's pretty cool. Build your community, be ready to learn something every day, and that's very important. Thanks for that, Susan. It's really, really important is that we do. That we are open to learn from others, and that we are vulnerable enough to ask questions. And if you get to the point where you realize that you don't have to know everything, then you're not afraid to ask questions anymore. In the beginning, when I got involved in tech, I was kind of like afraid to ask questions because I was so afraid that people would then see that I don't know the answers to those things. And then at some point I stopped caring about it. So don't be afraid to ask those questions. I do think that we can help each other. So that's kind of me. I'm actually, look at me, not be late today, but like I said, this chickie is super exhausted. I'm not even joking about that. I'm going to go straight to bed and then get up at 3 a.m. and continue working. So as always, there's my details if you wanted to grab that. Any other feedback? Anyone want to like tell me something? So let's see. Absolutely. So Susan's saying, I used to teach college and I taught the students to build their communities and follow experts in the field. That's the best thing you can ever do. It's the best gift you can ever do, is to tell people to create their own support environment. And I mean, if we think the industry these days, what do they call it? Crowdsourcing, okay? The ability to, in the middle of the night, except for Phil, because he's always online. Again, remember I said that I think that he's a robot. But except for him, like some of us are online half of the day, okay? That means that at any time in the middle of the night, in the middle of the day, you can get on Twitter, or, well, I prefer Twitter, okay, it's just my thing. Facebook's become a sad place for me, so I might like kick that platform soon. But Twitter is just this place where I can get on and say, guys, I'm having this issue on Power Automate. Here's a screenshot of the error that I'm getting. Does anyone else experience the same thing, or can anyone help me or something? And I promise you, you can ask Phil, you can ask anyone else who also uses Twitter. Susan's also on Twitter. It's just unbelievable how eager the people are to help each other, okay? Facebook, a little bit different. The Facebook groups, man, annoys me slightly, because someone will go on the Facebook group and say, hi, I'm new to SharePoint, tell me everything I need to know. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't work like that, okay? So the kind of like, I don't know, the environment on SharePoint is a little bit different for me. So I do have my days where I get a little bit annoyed with the people on Facebook, but on Twitter, I definitely get much, much better. Phil, thank you very, very much. He says I must take it easy and get some rest. I do hope so. I think I've got about 7 hours that I can go and sleep. Thank you so much, Susan. Thanks for everyone who joined. I absolutely love this, even though I did say that I'm tired. I'm just being honest. I wasn't complaining. But I do love doing this, and as long as I can keep on doing this, I absolutely will keep on doing this as much as I can. So you have an incredible week. I will share the recording again. I think last week I was quite an overachiever. I think I shared the recording that same night. Look at that. It's not going to happen today. It's going to happen tomorrow. But I will share the recording. I think you're amazing. Stay awesome. Share the link with other people as well if you think it can help them. And you can go and grab the resources on my blog as well, and reach out on social media. If you haven't connected with me, connect with me. And I always tell everyone, please remember, please don't send me DMs on social media. And it's not that you're not special to me, it's that there's a couple of thousand people that are special to me, and it becomes impossible to answer those. So reach out on social media, tag me in it, which means that other people like Phil, who never sleeps, can also answer those questions, and it also means that other people can learn from those questions. So please, if you can defer from reaching out to me personally, don't be afraid to ask questions. We're all there to help each other. But stay awesome, have an incredible week. Tomorrow is Friday, thank goodness. Yeah, I'm definitely not a fan of Facebook, Susan. I am so over Facebook, you have no idea. I'm like very, very close to kicking it. So take care, be awesome, stay awesome, and I'll catch with you up next week then. Hopefully I'll be less tired then. I'm pretty sure I will. My last night shift is tomorrow night, so I think that's going to work. Take care, everyone, and chat soon.